The most common question that I get in my practice is, Dr. Russ, what do I do to keep this from happening again? How do I get my body into a condition where it doesn't hurt all the time? Sometimes folks come in with low back or a shoulder or a neck issue, and we examine and diagnose and treat, and then they want to know, how do I keep this from happening again? And sometimes it's you need to stretch your neck, you need to open the pec, you need to do sternal lift, you need to do some core stabilization, but also you have to have some cardiovascular fitness. So that's what I want to talk about in today's video. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. David Russ. I'm a chiropractor in Portland, Oregon, and I love talking about ways for you to keep yourself healthy. And if you like my video, please subscribe and give it a like. Now, if you are watching this video and you feel that you are not capable of exercising because of some condition you may have of muscle or joint or nerve, or some condition of your life situation, I encourage you to drop a comment in the comments or send me an email through my website, which will be in the video description. And tell me your situation, and I'll see if I can help point you in the right direction, because I believe, and I'm coming from a place in this video, is that fitness is universal. It's for everyone. No matter what your body is, you have a fit state and an unfit state, and I want to help move you toward fitness and into fitness in a sustainable way, in a way that works for you. So the answer to the question is cardiovascular fitness. That's foundational for everyone. Core stability is wonderful and super important, and big gym muscles are great and super important, and strength is great. But without a good solid base of circulation and cardiovascular fitness, it's kind of empty fitness. So let's talk about cardiovascular fitness and cardiovascular exercise and how to do it safely and effectively so that you can get where you want to go. Okay? So first, let's define cardiovascular exercise. When I say cardiovascular exercise, I mean any movement or activity that raises your heart rate significantly, raises your respiration significantly, and lasts for 8 minutes or more. That's a research-based number of minutes. I'm not just making it up. Now, in cardiovascular exercise, we have two main pathways. We have aerobic, where you are burning your fuel in the presence of oxygen in order to make energy. And we have anaerobic, where we are metabolizing that fuel in the absence of oxygen, and we are making energy, but a lot less efficiently. Okay? Aerobic exercise is exercising in a way where you're conditioning your aerobic capacity, where you're giving your body the ability to create energy efficiently and in a sustained way over time. And when you're exercising anaerobically, you're exercising and conditioning your ability to provide short bursts of energy, quick bursts of short-lived energy. Now, why is this? We're going to talk very basically about the biochemistry underlying this, so that you can understand why it is the way that it is. Now, let's talk about anaerobic metabolism first. First of all, we're not anaerobic because we're underwater or holding our breath. We go anaerobic because the demand for energy outpaces our body's ability to supply oxygen. And we only go anaerobic when that happens. In anaerobic metabolism, your cell will take glucose, a sugar molecule, and break it down into pyruvate and get 2 units of energy, 2 ATP, for your cell to use. ATP is cellular energy. The pyruvate will be turned into lactate, where it hangs out until it gets oxidized later. When you are doing aerobic exercise, every molecule of glucose that gave us 2 units of cellular energy anaerobically will give us a whopping 38 units of energy. So that is much, much, much more efficient. There is no lactate byproduct. The byproducts of aerobic metabolism are carbon dioxide and water. So when we're talking about anaerobic metabolism, we can only do it for short bursts of time before the lactic acid builds up and inhibits the whole process. We can do short bursts of intense activity, more than what our body can supply with oxygen in the moment. That lactic acid buildup is what I call oxygen debt. You're borrowing oxygen from the future. That lactic acid accumulates from that inefficient anaerobic process, And I should say here that that inefficient anaerobic process is necessary for life. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not as efficient. That lactic acid builds up. Then later when you're at rest, your body can catch up and bring oxygen to the cell so that lactic acid can be metabolized through the rest of the way. And we do eventually get the rest of those cellular energy ATP from it, but just later. You've borrowed oxygen from later. Aerobic activity you can do for a long time. It's sustained because you're able to provide enough oxygen to do the activity for basically as long as you want. There is no oxygen debt created. So we have to think about what goes into how much oxygen we can bring to the cells. It's not just about how intense the activity is, it's also about how much oxygen can you deliver. And there's three things that go into that. One is your breathing, right? The capacity of your body to take in air and blow out carbon dioxide rich used up air. Number two, your circulation. How well does your body bring that oxygenated blood to the tissues, the periphery, especially the muscles? And then number three, how oxygen rich can your blood be? And all three of those things can be improved with conditioning. You can stretch and mobilize your shoulders, your upper body, your rib cage, and exercise your diaphragm to improve your breathing capacity. Yes, you can do that. Number two, you can improve your circulation. And the beauty is, the way that you get your circulation better is by cardiovascular exercise. It's like stretching the blood deep into the capillary beds, which we often don't do because we're sedentary. And as far as your blood oxygen carrying capacity, it will improve or upregulate as you teach your body that you are a more active person. If you are active more and you don't have a metabolic issue, then your body is going to make more red blood cells with more hemoglobin, and they're going to be able to carry more oxygen. So all of that stuff is under your control. We talked about lactic acid and oxygen debt. Let's talk about how do you know if you're aerobic or anaerobic? Because yeah, great, Dr. Russ, I want to be aerobic, but how do I know if I'm aerobic? There are formulas which you will find in books and on the internet and all over the place to calculate your aerobic zone. Like 185 minus your age, subtract 5 if you're healing from an injury, subtract 5 more if you haven't been active for the last 6 months. There's tons of those out there, and most of them are fine. But the idea is it's going to give you a range of about 10 beats per minute, because your aerobic zone is really about your heart rate. How intense is your heart beating? For me, I'm 53 years old. My target heart zone is about 130 plus or minus 5. But I don't wear a heart monitor when I exercise anymore. I did for many years, but then I just learned how to feel it in my body. And that's what I want you to feel too. And it's not that hard. There's two things I want you to think about next time you're out moving and exercising to determine whether you're aerobic or anaerobic. Number one is, are you breathing too hard for you to be able to talk? The old adage, way back in the day before anyone had a heart monitor was, if you're unable to carry on conversation while you're jogging, you're running too hard. And it's true, you're anaerobic if you're panting. You're panting because your body is not able to keep up with the oxygen demand, and it's doing everything it can to bring in as much oxygen and blow off as much CO2 as possible, as quickly as possible. So if you're panting and breathing so hard that talking is impossible, you are anaerobic. If you are out there exercising, a good walk, or maybe you're on the bike or elliptical or whatever, and your breathing is increased, you can feel, or your heart monitor is telling you that your heart rate is up. Maybe you're sweating, you should be sweating, but you can talk. You're not panting. That's where you want to be. Number two is, how do you feel after you have exercised? If you're done with your workout and you feel refreshed and revitalized and clear head, and theoretically, if you had to, you could do that workout again, congratulations, that was an aerobic workout. If you're done and you don't feel refreshed and you don't feel revitalized, you probably didn't work out hard enough and you didn't get into your aerobic zone. If you're done with your workout and you're fatigued and you're tired and maybe you're shaking, that was anaerobic. And again, that's not wrong. It's just not what we're trying to do here. Because when you're exercising, you're conditioning your body. You are conditioning either the aerobic pathway or the anaerobic pathway. Both are important, but the aerobic pathway is what you want to start with for sure, and the aerobic pathway is what you want to have forever. And with either modality, you can get stronger, you can improve your balance, you can lose weight, you can improve your coordination, you can improve your core stability, you can improve your flexibility and mobility. Both aerobic and anaerobic can be put to those uses. But anaerobic conditioning only increases your endurance for short-term, high-intensity work. If your only exercise is to sprint, that doesn't improve your ability to run a marathon. Conversely, if you train for a 5K or a 10K, then you will be able to sprint. It will have effects on your anaerobic capacity. So because our lives are not sprints, our lives are marathons every day, an 8, 10, 12-hour workday, whatever it is. And I don't care if you work in an office, on a construction site, in a warehouse, or your work is at home, making a home and raising a family. It's a long day and it requires endurance. And aerobic conditioning will help you with that. It improves your quality of life from the get-go. The anaerobic conditioning gives you that gravy, that extra capacity for high-intensity work, athletic activity, the excess strength, and the excess physical capacity that we don't really need in our day-to-day but feels really good to have. It's wonderful to be stronger than you need to be and have more endurance than you need. So I do recommend both. So the ideal combination is you start with the aerobic, you start with cardiovascular aerobic activity to condition your aerobic capacity, and then you add into that high-intensity intervals. That is a sustainable, long-term, really effective combination for getting people where mostly they want to go, which is you want to feel good, you want to have no brain fog, you want to sleep well, and you want to look good, and you want to be strong, and you want to be able to get through your life without being exhausted. So how do we modulate? What knobs do we need to turn in order to determine whether our exercise is aerobic or anaerobic? It's basically about pace, effort, and duration. Effort and exertion, I use those terms interchangeably. Moderate pace, moderate effort, longer duration. That's aerobic cardio. And by longer duration, I mean at least 20 minutes. Ideally closer to 35 to 40 minutes. And I know a lot of people, they just get bored, but you got to do it. Whatever you need to do, put in your headphones, watch something on TV. Quick personal story, back in the pandemic, and I was getting on my Nordic track. I have a Nordic track for my aerobic, and I would watch an entire episode of the Great British Baking Show each workout. It's an hour long, and an hour long workout on the elliptical is a really long one, but I would do kind of a ramp up and a gentle increase of my intensity during the, what do they call it? The first bake, not the technical, not the showstopper. The first bake would be that, and then it would be the technical, which is usually the shortest of the three, and I would be higher intensity during the technical, and then I would cool down during the showstopper. And by the time it was done, I felt good. So for anaerobic work, it's shorter effort, shorter duration, faster pace, higher effort. Let's give some examples. And again, to say, if you do not have access to a gym, you do not feel safe walking in your neighborhood, you are disabled or differently abled, and you want some advice, I'm here for you. Put your question in the comment. If I feel I need more information, we'll set up a video consult. But if it's a pretty straightforward question, maybe I can give you some ideas. Your fitness is important too. Okay? So let's say you're on foot. Your aerobic work would be flat ground, moderate to fast walk, doing some slower walk uphill or upstairs, or some combination of these things, a steady pace jog or run, or a really, really long walk. Now I should say, if you are not in great shape and you're just starting out, this is going to tire you out. That doesn't mean you're anaerobic, it means you're just starting out. Give yourself a few weeks and you'll see. If you're out of shape today, but otherwise essentially capable, and you start doing aerobic cardiovascular work today, you will have a different body in 3 months. You will feel completely different. So if you can commit to 3 months, it'll change your life. Let's say you're on foot and you want to go anaerobic. Those are sprints, climbing hills or climbing stairs at a pretty fast pace. So those are nice little intervals that you can put into your aerobic workout if you're out in the park on foot or hiking somewhere. Let's say you're cycling indoors or out. Your aerobic work is flat road with easy hills. Your anaerobic work is sprints and long hills. And if you have a spin bike or a Peloton, you know just how to do that. Let's say you're going to the gym and you want to use a machine. I highly recommend the elliptical machine. I do cycling, but I prefer the elliptical because it's whole body, because it's a cross crawl movement, which is really nourishing for our nervous system, and because it's no impact or low impact. So moderate pace, moderate resistance. I think you're getting the idea here for 25, 35, 45 minutes, or faster pace at lower resistance, or slower pace at higher resistance. Any of those will get you into your zone where your heart rate is elevated, your respiration is elevated, you're sweating and you can feel that you're working, but it's sustainable. You can have that conversation with your friend who comes over and asks you, what are you listening to on your headphones? Or which TV are you watching? If you want to go anaerobic on the elliptical, it's pretty simple. You just sprint at high resistance. So you want to do that anaerobic burst, a 30-second or 60-second interval, or throw a few intervals in there if you want to. Keep them brief. Don't let yourself get too fatigued because then it's going to interfere with your ability to complete your aerobic workout. And finally, it's a little more difficult to get aerobic with weights and resistance training, but you can do it. So as you might expect, with resistance training, aerobic work is lighter weight, long sets, less rest between sets, and by longer sets I mean 20 to 30 repetitions. And if you want to go anaerobic with weights or with resistance training, it's high weight, short sets of 5 or sometimes even 3 if you're really fatiguing, and you are working to fatigue if you want to go anaerobic with resistance training, and you want to rest more between the sets and give your muscles time to recover. So this is the basics. You can walk, you can cycle, you can dance. If you can't get outside or you can't get to the gym, you're watching this video, you have a phone or computer and internet connection, you can play music and you can dance. And dancing is, you don't need a ton of space, you don't need anything, you just need your body. So do something. That is what I am imploring you to do. Whether you're my patient or not, you're a human and you're in this world with me. I want you to be at your best because that makes all of us better. So this is Dr. Russ signing off. I thank you for watching. I thank you for your likes, and I always appreciate your comments. So thanks for being here.